All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to summer in May. The May Select Board meeting will get started now. A lot of folks here today, so I appreciate you. Esther, did you let everybody know? Okay, yeah, appreciate the sign up just so we can make sure we have a record of everybody who's here. And once we get the Zoom link up, I'll make a comment too to make sure that everybody who's signed in on Zoom is using their actual real name. Zoom is up? Yeah. Great. Okay, so for those out in Zoom land, if your video doesn't have your real name on it, if it just has something like iPad or iPhone, please go ahead and change your name on there so we have a record of who's attending tonight. All right, we ready to get started? Lisa, you good? Okay. All right, the first item we have on the agenda is any changes to the published agenda. And I know that we have one that we warned and we talked about. We have Jeremy Reed here, who is from the Vermont Agency of Transportation, who was gracious enough to come here and talk with us about the status of the 106 Bridge project. So we will insert him in the agenda right at the very beginning so that if he doesn't want to stick around and listen to everything happening in Reading, he doesn't have to. You are welcome to attend, though. All right, but we'll move him first in the agenda. Any other changes that you guys would like to make? Recommend? What? No?
Nothing that can't be handled under law.
Okay, great. All right, next is the minutes of the last Select Board meeting on the 8th of April. Esther, thank you very much for putting those together. Anybody have any comments? Changes to the minutes? No?
Move we accept them as printed. And posted.
Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor? Minutes are accepted. Treasurer's report.
April 24. Total revenue for the month of April was $33,682.38. Total expenditures for the month of April was $106,107.01. The balance in our accounts as of 4/30/24 is $142,400.49. Delinquent taxes due to the town are at $58,462.76. Any questions?
I don't have a question on that, Bob, that you raised, but I know last month we had, I think there was a we had a tax sale.
Yes.
Do we have any publicly releasable information from that? Do we know? I think there were 4 properties that were supposed to be discussed. I hadn't heard anything about that.
I don't have a report on it. Do you?
Okay.
There was only one property that got as far as a tax sale, and it was purchased by Charlie. You know his last name, Esther? Anyway, he's a guy that's been doing a lot of the work in town, flipping houses, basically. He bid on it and got it. The way that works is they have a year to redeem the property. If they redeem it, he will get his money back with interest, and if they don't redeem it within the 12 months, then it'll become his property. So it's sitting in limbo for the next 11 months.
Great.
At this point in time.
And which property was that, Robert?
That was the property, and I can't tell you the person that actually owns it, but it's up by the turn where you go to the highway garage on Matthews Drive. It's that trailer right on the corner.
Thank you. Do you want me to look up the others and publish it?
Excuse me?
Do you want me to look up the others and publish it?
I don't know if it needs to be published. I just wanted to know the status.
The other ones that were going for tax sale had either paid their taxes or had come in and put together a
Payment plan? Okay. Thanks, Bob. All right, we'll move now into the,
I gotta
yeah,
prove this.
okay. Oh, that's right, we have to accept that. Do you want to make a motion?
I'll move that we approve my treasurer's report.
There you go. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, treasurer's report accepted as written. All right, moving into our action items. I had heard that potentially one or two of our legislators would be here today. I'm looking around, I don't see either Allison or Becca here, right? No? Okay. That's fine, their loss. But we do have, as I mentioned, Jeremy Reed here, who's with us today. Jeremy is an engineer with the, as I said, the Agency of Transportation. And so Jeremy, there's a lot of interest, obviously, in the town here with what's going on with the 106 bridge. A little bit of the town's frustration here is that, you know, we understand that the bridge is it's a choke point in the river there. We are not allowed to go upstream of the river and clear out the debris. We're also not allowed to dig out underneath the bridge to increase the water flow. So there's a lot of interest in what is the plan for, you know, upgrading, changing that bridge. So, yeah, please, over to you.
So I don't have a presentation. My name is Jeremy Reed. I'm the chief engineer for the Vermont Agency of Transportation. Rough schedule for the bridge replacement is we're doing preliminary design right now, which basically means we're looking at a bunch of different options, trying to assess the length, what the right-of-way impacts would be, the type of structure it would be, et cetera. We expect to have that done later this summer, and we will come back for a public concerns meeting at that time to present one or more options of what we think fits the need. And that will be conducted by the project manager and the design team who are actually in charge of that project. Once that happens, we'll finalize the design, go through right-of-way acquisition, get all the permits we need. We do expect that. Talk about construction phasing as far as right now. I think they're looking at either a bridge closure or phase construction, but again, those are yet to be determined. Basically, October, November of 2025, the project will be advertised with construction commencing in the spring of 2026. I understand the concerns. We have done a fairly intensive hydraulic modeling at this point, and what we've seen is regardless of what we do there, it won't alleviate a lot of the flooding, principally because, as was mentioned, the river comes down at a very steep grade, and then coincidentally where the bridge is, it flattens right out, and the deposits from above will fall out, and it's what's called an alluvial fan, and basically the stream bed continues to erode over even just thunderstorms, let alone any significant flooding event. And there's not a lot we can do about that.
Question,
Yep.
why can't we go down under, I know during Irene,
Yep.
they went down to 2 feet above most of the bridges in West Bridgewater, to 2 feet above the footings.
Yep.
Why can't we do that here?
So the Vermont Agency of Transportation isn't telling you you can't. We can't tell you you can either. That would be the Agency of Natural Resources. I think Todd Minnies is the stream alteration engineer here. I'm aware of selective dredging throughout the state, but that's their realm as stream alteration engineers to assess the viability of that.
Do you guys not work with them when you're coming up with redesign to figure out?
We do.
Alleviate all of this?
Yeah, so we will work with them for design. We get a couple permits. One is a Title 19, which is a stream alteration permit. One is a FARC permit. It's an acronym, but basically it's a floodplain hazard assessment. So we will get both of those permits if required, and we will do the best we can to provide the most robust and redundant structure there. But, you know, just the geomorphology of the area, we can't solve everything with our bridge. Yep.
I'm Sarah Kowalski with the South County. So what I'm hearing worries me from the point of view that everybody is operating in silos. And yet it's the integration of all of these components that have to be done. I don't hear any description of a process in which Agency of Natural Resources, Agency of Transportation, who else perhaps, should be sitting together now, this summer, and looking at the topology, the hydrology, all the aspects that fit into this situation. You clearly only have one piece, and maybe A&R through stream engineering only has another piece, and there may be some other pieces that we are not the professionals to know about. So how do we find out what all the pieces are, and how do we invite you to come together with us to look at this problem holistically while you're making your plans?
Yeah, so I don't think we're operating in silos, but we're, the bridge is a coincidental structure within the area, right? And so our sphere of influence is let's say 49.5 feet, that is the right of way. And to your point, the issue starts significantly further upstream and, continues to occur downstream. And so I really would encourage everybody or selected, select board members to work with Todd Manise as a town and say, how do we do this? Can we get a dredging plan? It's going to involve right of way though too, because there's private property owners on either side of the stream, and so they have a skin in the game. So it's not that everyone's working in a silo, but there isn't a state entity that owns it and that can compel action.
So can I just ask a follow-up question? This is the end of a chain of waterways and of water flow in this town. Does Todd Manise have the knowledge base, the authority and responsibility about all of that water?
So as the stream alteration engineer, he has the regulatory authority and knowledge and expertise for any jurisdictional waterway. So I figured exactly what that is, but it would be virtually anything that runs year round. So to answer your question, yes, Todd would be the authority. He has both the regulatory and the scientific knowledge to address all of the tributaries and the downstream effects.
Thank you.
Is it difficult to talk to Todd Manise?
Not at all. No, I was a resident engineer when I started. In fact, I built a bridge just north of here on Bailey Hill Road, whatever, back in 2008. Very, very easygoing guy. He's obviously in demand, but very practical. I've worked with him a lot. I'm certain he wants to find a solution as well.
And how do we get in touch with him?
Yeah, wait, I just have a pause. Why are they getting in touch with him? Why is AOT, they own the bridge, correct? You own the bridge. Why is the town needing to get in touch with them and not AOT?
So AOT will get in
I
touch.
just need the answer to that question first.
Yeah, so I can get you his number. You go on A&R's website. They list all the stream alteration
And
engineers.
he'll definitely talk to us, get back to us.
Yeah, I think so.
Before we go further, Bob, have we talked with, what's his name, Todd Manise?
No, we have not.
We have not talked with him yet?
We
Okay.
have not.
Guys, it's not Todd Manise, it's Scott Jensen.
Yeah, we talked with
Okay.
Scott Jensen and
Okay.
John Broker-Campbell.
Okay. Okay, I was told Todd was involved with the project with the Hall Foundation, but if it's Scott, okay.
Okay, before we go, Bill, Becca, thank you for coming, by the way. Senator Rebecca White, appreciate you taking the time to come out here and joining the discussion with us.
Yeah, sorry I'm late. I had to drive from work. So,
Yeah.
Mr.
Yes.
Reed, and I really appreciate you coming. I know it was difficult to try to schedule and get you here. I think the main points that I have a lot of confusion on is it seems like AOT should have ownership of this bridge project, but we're asking the town to carry a lot of the load. So I just want to understand, are you the correct point person moving forward?
So I am the chief engineer,
Okay.
but there is a project team underneath me with a project manager design team who will come back to local concerns meeting. So to go back to my original point, the bridge is not the problem. We could remove the bridge and close 106. You will still have flooding here in all likelihood, okay? So we have authority over the right of way and that's it. But that won't essentially solve all the problems. The river will continue to erode. The stream bed will continue to fill up, as most alluvial fans do. We see throughout the state. This is not an unusual problem. So we will absolutely work with A&R Stream Alteration to permit our bridge project. As I mentioned, there's a stream alteration engineer, in all likelihood a FARC permit, and potentially some stormwater, although the footprint's pretty small, that may not be relevant. But we will fully permit it. We will work with A&R to assess those designs and meet local or state codes and install the most resilient and largest waterway we can. My point was, that's not the end all be all. That won't fix everything.
Fair enough.
Bill, sorry.
Is your design team exactly aware what happened on the evening of July 10th last year to that bridge?
Exactly? I don't know about exactly, no.
Well, the chief was on one side of the bridge, a couple of us were on the other side of the bridge, and the sediment, alluvial fan, and all that, you're right, that stuff's probably not going to go away in our lifetime. However, what happened that night had nothing to do with the sediment. That bridge jammed with big rocks and trees in a matter of a couple of hours, and the river just went right over it.
Yep.
And around it, and it wiped out the road and flooded the road on both sides. It acted as a dam, not a bridge. And when the town replaced some culverts and bridges in South Reading after Irene, it had the same problem, jammed with logs and rocks, wiped out roads. They replaced them with much larger openings. I think they're precast concrete. And those two bridges they replaced in 2011 fared fine. They didn't jam this time.
Yep.
It had nothing to do with the sediment.
Yep. Yeah, no, we are going to install a bigger structure there. We are not replacing in kind, but my only point was there is a limit to what we can do. So as it is now, there's a little rise in the grade, right? And it's a bit of a balance between the longer you get, the deeper your structure is, right? And so we've got to find that area. We can make it a lot longer, but we don't necessarily increase the waterway opening because it gets so deep. Likewise, when it gets deep like that, the impacts get bigger. We need to acquire much more rights, which is much more impactful to all the adjacent property owners. And then there's obviously safety concerns with, just the geometry of the roadway as well. So I'm saying we are going to install the best structure we can. That's not going to solve everything, but it will greatly improve what is there now.
Just one follow-up comment if I may, and I'll
Go ahead.
After this storm, the town installed one precast bridge, Grasshopper, replaced the jam culvert, and repaired the Archer Street Bridge. They did that in under 7 months.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, for the life of me, can't understand why the process the state's going to take us through is 3 years long, when the likelihood of a storm like this happening again is hard to know. But I don't think anybody thinks that this is anything great.
Yeah.
For the folks that own property that abut that river, they've suffered multiple times from this bridge becoming a dam. And the state hasn't really done squat since '73, or even since it was built in '47. I'm told by people here a lot longer than me that this is the 5th time this has happened. And this is the 5th time, it's the first time the state's even talking about doing something.
Yeah, so we are going to do something. Quite frankly, towns have a quicker process than we do. Some of it's self-imposed bureaucracy, some of it isn't. We've got a right-of-way process that's mandated by federal highway we have to follow. Obviously, the permitting we're going to do, and it's important we're going to do it right. Then there's just budgetary impacts, right? We can't replace every bridge that was impacted from the July 10th storm in 1 year. There's not the contractor capacity, there's not the budget capacity, there's not the human resources capacity to do all of that. We have hundreds of projects that precipitated or emanated from that July storm. We've got 65 what I'll call full-scale projects, which means full design, construction, what are in our capital program essentially, that are emergency relief projects. But again, those come with federal dollars, but they come with federal requirements as well.
Jeremy, is this one of the 65 projects?
Yes.
Okay. Ma'am.
Mary Crowley, and I recall a previous meeting where a state geologist was here and talked about building the bridge without any culvert and allowing the water to migrate to the natural floodplain, which would eliminate the need for culverts or any of that kind of stuff.
Well, yeah, it's gonna be a bridge, it won't be a culvert. So I'm not sure who you spoke to earlier. I don't believe anybody from V-Trans has been down here, so I don't know who that would have
She
been.
lives in Reading.
Well,
We've never,
She's
not
behind you.
I don't remember saying that.
Okay, what did you say? Did you talk about?
Marie Caduto, A&R, watershed planner, so,
Sure.
just so you know who I am.
I don't ever recall anybody talking about replacing the bridge with a culvert in the last 50 years.
No, certainly, I've never spoken about this bridge. I've certainly talked about, bridges of culverts in the past, but not in reference to this particular bridge. And as Jeremy is saying, it's the span, the length of the bridge. And I don't know. So basically, if we replace it at 100% of its current size, obviously it's still gonna be too small. So the numbers, and I'm not sure what numbers AOT is using at this point, but for the water and the sediment and the trees and everything else to pass in a flood to get under that structure, it generally needs to be at least 120% or more of the size that it is. And I don't know what they've measured bank full width, basically the width of the river when it's about to flow out onto the floodplain and get out of the river channel. So it usually has to be at least 1.2 times that bank full width. And I don't know, and the question I would have is there even room there between the houses
Right.
to put a 1.2?
Yeah, I don't know the numbers yet, that's what we're trying to balance, right? Because as I said, the longer the bridge, the deeper it gets, and that becomes detrimental as well, obviously. So we obviously start at bank full width as a baseline. And I'm confident we can probably do that here because it's very incised as you go upstream. So I don't even know where, that's probably not even a true bank full width would be my guess. But we'll start at bank full width and see how wide or long we can make it without sacrificing so much depth that becomes an issue.
Is there ever any arch built into it for?
So we do build cambers in all of our structures. The current bridge has camber if you drive over it now. So we will try to do that, but we are limited by the geometric requirements of, the speed in the area. And, we could build up the approaches, but again, then we start filling into the adjacent property owners' homes and things. So, like I said, we're battling 4 or so competing interests.
Maurice?
Hi, I'm Maurice Ring. I'm from the Holler Foundation. We emailed.
Yes, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, and I emailed Corey as well.
Yep.
So I guess my first question is that it's shocking to hear you say that the bridge is not going to alleviate flood potential
Well,
for our properties.
it will alleviate it, it won't eliminate it.
Right. So I guess my first question is, you said it was an alluvial fan. So in an ideal world, if there was nothing else around, how would you deal with an alluvial fan? Like is just making it longer, or would you address things that are upstream of the bridge? How do you, maybe this is an engineering question
Yeah.
rather than this is a spot
Sure.
person question maybe?
Well, no, I mean, so in an ideal world, let's say we're out in the middle of an undeveloped area, we would try to make it as long as possible, and we could raise the road and try to, we wouldn't necessarily always be able to fix it. We've got a bridge in Bridgewater that's currently very long, and it's a very similar scenario. You know, we are somewhat bound by what is practical, but yeah, we would basically probably, yeah, I mean, I think the bridge in Bridgewater, we're looking at like a $9 million project, but we don't have necessarily the same kind of site constraints as we do here.
Mr. Reed, can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Of the 65 projects that you stated the state has to do bridges replacement or repairs, how are you prioritizing the need for those?
There's a couple different approaches. One is balancing the funding and spreading the work out. Some of it is imminent risk and asset condition. And then there's, you know, how quickly can we get the design. Some of them we don't need to go to right away. We can just replace, you know, inside of our existing right away. So there's 3 or 4 different inputs there, and based on the scoped project, we then sort of slot them into a 2 or 3 year cycle to just spread that out a little bit.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm not understanding how things come backwards. I wouldn't build a house until I clear land. So until we do something to mitigate flood damage again and the overflowing, it doesn't seem that we need a bridge design. It seems we need to alleviate those problems and concerns to make it better and then design a bridge around what is investigated about that process. It seems backwards to me.
Yeah, so I want to stress this. We are alleviating it, we're making it better. What I'm just saying is we're not eliminating it. And I'm not a geomorphologist, but to eliminate it probably means we're buying people's houses, which is not a desirable outcome either.
This is perhaps a stupid question, but I'm just gonna ask it anyway. Is there a way, like, when currently I've heard that the bridge can't be dredged because the abutments will be exposed, like they're not deep enough. So if you dredge under there, it'll expose the abutments and compromise the structure of the bridge. Is there a way to design a bridge so that the abutments are like real deep?
Yes.
So that there's potential for dredging in the future?
Yes, we are absolutely doing that. So all structures we put in now are designed so that they are not scour critical. I don't know what that existing bridge is, if dredging would be a problem or not.
I've been told that it is, yeah.
So,
I mean, you can see.
yeah. But I assure you the new bridge will not be scour critical.
So if scouring becomes part of the equation of maintaining the opening, is that possible? Does that become like a river engineer
Exactly.
thing that
Yep.
we work with them to, would regularly be allowed to dredge under the bridge?
You would have to work with Agency Natural Resources on that, but our structure will not be the limiting factor there. So as a minimum, generally speaking, our bridge will be designed, so what we do is we go to the very bottom of the stream bed, then we go 6 feet below that, and that's where we say, okay, imagine all that material is gone. The bridge has to be freestanding and can support itself.
6 feet below the riverbed.
6 feet below the bottom of the stream now. Yep.
Okay.
So not considering permitting through other agencies, in your own design process, wouldn't you need as much hydrological information you could gather for input in your design?
Yep.
So will that information be helpful to us?
Absolutely, and it's done, and I don't think there's any reason I can't pass it along tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Yeah, it's done, and that's why I'm saying, we modeled that stretch of river, and that's why I'm saying, we know that basically under no circumstance can we eliminate all risk, because we've modeled it, and we see the aggradation of the stream bed, regardless if the bridge is there or not.
And who knows what needs to be done upriver in order to minimize the reoccurrence down below, or the congestion?
That would probably be a stream alteration question.
So we have done a river assessment of, well, we've done it on Mill Brook, not on this stretch. But basically, we're getting 30 to 50% more water in our heavy rainstorms than we used to get because of climate change. So we're getting these dumpings of water that's way beyond anything we have built up to this point. So all our structures are pretty much undersized, whether it's a local road, a back road, or a state highway. They're all too small for what we get now. And as you say, to mitigate how much water is coming through the village in any given storm, we have to work upstream to let the water get out of the channel, get onto the fields, get onto the floodplain, so there's not as much of it hitting the village as the storms happen. So unless we can find places and willing landowners up in the watershed to work with us to do these projects and to allow the water onto the land and to get water out of the channel, we can't mitigate it. So a big part of what I do is find those projects where we have that opportunity and bring the funding to put them into place. So we can do that, we have that opportunity, but we need landowners to say, yeah, you can flood my field once in a while. And that's not always an easy choice.
Marie, that addresses one question that Jackie asked, which is the water side, but there's also the debris side, right? If we wanted to try to get rid of some of that debris, and I assume that that's a Scott Jensen discussion.
And if you size the structure correctly, what comes down should pass under it, rather than jamming it up. So that's the concept of the larger structure with more room for that stuff to pass. And
Understand, I'm thinking more about the,
3 years away.
I'm thinking about the next 2 or 3 years instead, right?
I'd like to just, excuse me, I'd like to just say that that bridge that's there now was doing fine in '73, in 2011, and even this past year, until all the dead trees that were in the brook or on the banks came down and plugged the bridge. Same thing happened down to Knapp Brook, except that dam happened further upstream, and it went behind the house that's there and left all of the gravel from the road and everything in the field, and went around and back into the brook north of the Indian Stone site. This bridge down here in 2011 was taken to water until the trees came down, dead trees, plugged the front of it, and it went over. Same thing happened last July. It's been 10 months since then, and if you folks, any of you can see this, if you drive up the Tyson Road and you just look in the north branch of the Black River, where you can see it, there isn't hardly a place between here and South Reading, when you can see the brook, that you won't see trees laying right across it. The banks are sliding, they're clay in some cases, they're letting the root base tip over. 10 years, those trees will be dead, and they'll be right down here, unless we clean them out. The town doesn't have money enough to go ahead and clean them out. But if the state had the money and cleaned those trees out, or buried them in the bank, which is what some of the people that A&I like us to do now, or like to have done, bury them in the bank to create disturbance in the water, I guess you could call it, to slow it up. But there is a lot of trees already down. Now they're green today, but they won't be a year from today. And that's what's happened down at this bridge, and it'll happen again unless it's 50 feet wide and 10 feet high.
So
It
who
can't be-
who do we have to get the approvals from to get that debris removal? Do you think?
I'm not really sure. You can start with Scott Johnson, but then you've gotta find a way to get in there. And a lot of the places, the only way you're gonna get in there is either go upstream or downstream and walk right up and down the brook with an excavator. A lot of those places, you can't just go and get on in. You gotta start where you can get in, work your way upstream or downstream, taking the trees out and putting them up on the bank or in the bank.
Just like to add one thing to what Bob said, I mean, when we were out there that night, you could hear the boulders hitting the bridge, it was really loud, and constantly, like every 10, 20, 30, every 10, 20, 30 seconds, so it's the trees and the boulders that combine really what jam the water space. And we're just talking, what worried me about what's happened to the area from the falls down to the bridge, it's now all totally rock lined. And so the observation from the July 10th meeting was that water velocity was the fastest I'd ever seen it. And obviously there's people that are a lot longer than me. But it was the velocity of the water was taking everything down. Big boulders, big trees, lots of sediment. And it was, so I don't understand. I mean, if you rock line something to make it narrow, you're just gonna accelerate the speed of the water coming down, which to me makes the whole problem orders of magnitude worse.
Well, and that's the argument against dredging, right? So, because when you in size and dredge, you don't allow that relief, and you don't allow that velocity to drop out. So
why did this stream at the fastest part of the river, why did it get rock lined? I don't understand it.
but I think, and I don't know this, that rock lining is somewhat natural.
Oh, no, I watched for 6 weeks, a lot of excavators
No.
put the rocks there. They were not natural.
From us?
Guaranteed.
From us?
I don't know who was running the equipment.
I think it was a combination of trying to protect the bridge
Okay.
and bring the channel, because the channel had widened so much upstream of the
Okay.
bridge, that it ended up getting built back out to the bridge span.
Yeah, it's like 100 feet upstream, and I wouldn't believe we would have done that. Maybe we did.
I'm not saying who did it, I'm just saying it was done, and it's just made the velocity worse.
Just a minute, sir. Kevin, you've had your hand up for a bit.
Yeah, Kevin Kaya. I've worked on EWP sites for many years, emergency watershed protection. And you're not going to get rid of large woody debris. It will always happen. If there's a way that some of the engineers can design a cow catcher type design with an emergency spillway that's heavily armored and possibly armored by the stratigraphy or the way the ledge actually goes, and you could probably think about stopping some of those large logs that have become a problem. Now, I don't know if you've ever looked into this, but the large woody debris is probably not going to be removed, and then you're going to say, we're not going to have it anymore. Years ago, the USDA used to pay farmers to cut trees along the riverbanks. So this evolving hydrogeological puzzle, so to speak, continues. We have to think out of the box about these things, and I think that's where I would like to see the state transportation people go. The hydrological effects of increased rain have to be commensurate with, the engineering. Thank you very much.
And the point's not lost, and I would just want to say this. We did go back after the December storm, and we looked at a couple different data sets. One, we compared what we fixed in Irene versus what was damaged in July. And what we did find is that there was virtually no overlap, right? So what you saw was a quilt work where what we fixed in Irene stayed, and then there was some other place up or downstream that received damage in July. Similarly, we looked at what we fixed in July that had stabilized because we hadn't received, vegetation on some spots, and there was virtually no damage in December that we fixed in July. So I just want to sort of urge a little bit of caution when I say that we're not going to eliminate the risk. That's it, we're not going to eliminate it. Is it going to be significantly better? Yes. But I just don't want to say, okay, we'll put in a new bridge here, this community will never see flooding again. I can't make that promise, especially with a 100 or 150 year storm. What I can say is the past experience over the last 13 years has shown that when we come in and do a replacement, it does greatly increase, if not eliminate, the danger.
Great. All right, final questions. Sarah, you,
Yeah, this lady next to me has her hand raised
Okay.
longer than me,
Yes,
so
go
I
ahead.
would like to go after her.
Back, a conversation about the dredging. Your comment was that the bridge can be designed, redesigned, built, and then things can be dredged at that point afterwards.
Well, I'm saying our bridge won't be the limiting factor.
But why, but that's building a house on one clear dock. It should be dredged and then put the new bridge over them. I mean,
I'll
it
let my
just,
colleague from A&R
it
speak to
just
that.
sounds so backwards to me. I wish somebody could explain it.
Dredging is actually, in reality, it's counterproductive, because what you do is, you know, the slope's coming down and you make a hole, however long that dredge is, and then it goes back to the grade that it was, because you don't dredge the whole thing. So when we look at sediment coming downstream, it's not just in a flood, right? The water, rivers don't carry water. Rivers carry water and sediment always 24/7, 365 in balance. And if the river is hitting a point, it's carrying sediment all the time. And that sediment, all it's gonna do between floods is fill in that hole. Because then it gets, instead of the slope being steady and the sediment moves the whole way down, it gets stuck in that hole and it settles there, so it just fills right back up. So it's a very, very short-term thing, and we can demonstrate this in a model. So you dig out that hole, it gets filled up, the next flood, it's not there anymore anyway. So it doesn't help, and it actually makes more erosion happen, because if you don't have that sediment coming downstream, that water needs sediment, so it grabs it below the dredge and carves that out deeper, so it makes it even, the erosion even worse.
So three things really quickly. First of all, thanks to the good Wi-Fi in this building, Scott Jensen is Scott.Jensen, J-E-N-S-E-N, at Vermont.gov. He's a river management engineer. His phone number is 802-410-6962. His job description, here's my second point, his job description is river management and natural river channel design technical assistance and stream alteration permits. Okay, design technical assistance. Technical assistance to whom? Because if we want to work on this, part of what has been running around here is lack of clarity about who's on first. You know, where do you start with these conversations? Marie, you've mentioned talking with landowners about being able to have, I'm going to use a late term about floodplain, because that may not be the right word, but so who would landowners talk to? Who might invite landowners to come together to talk, to look at this as part of a community enterprise? Where's the point energy if there was interest in action in this community that did not simply wait for reactive behaviors within bureaucratic frameworks from our departments of government?
Sarah, let me address that. Thank you for finding that out. We have, when I say we up here have spoken, met with Scott Jensen on a number of different issues and topics. I will say, as a result of this meeting here today, one of us will reach out to Scott and we'll talk with him about options in the near term, I'd say, within the next 2 to 3 years, something that we could do to help alleviate the concerns that we know are not going to be fixed until or lessened until the bridge is addressed. Okay, so we're gonna reach out and do that with Scott. I'm not discouraging you from reaching out and expressing your concerns, but just know that the town's gonna take that on, okay?
Thank you.
Sure. Maurice, I think last question.
Yeah, so let's jump to when this bridge is getting built. Can you shine some light on that process? You know, is the road gonna be closed? Is it gonna be halfway closed? How long is it gonna take? What can we expect?
So, in detail, no, I can't shed some light on it. We're still working through what even the bridge will be, whether it be steel with a concrete deck.
Based on experience.
Yeah, my guess is it will either be closed for a 21, 28-day closure, and we'll do the thing all at once, or it'll be phased construction, where we go in there, build half at a time, probably shift the road a little bit one way or the other, and then flop traffic and do the other side. In virtually any scenario, that all will be done in no more than one summer.
Okay.
Can you just give us a quick wrap-up of what you need to do before you'll be back in the summer or fall, whenever it's coming
Yeah.
back?
So the design team's they're taking the hydraulic model. I think they'll be looking at some initial geotechnical investigations to determine what the bridge is gonna sit on. Then they'll, I think, come up with a handful of options. Certainly look at bank full width and things of that nature. And once we have what I'll call a little bit more advanced in conceptual design, then we'll be back for the local concerns meeting and present one or more options. We'll probably come with a preferred alternative, and we'll identify why it is. And then, we'll hear any additional concerns. At that time, they'll probably talk about whether it be phase construction or bridge closure and things like that. And, like I said, that'll happen sometime this summer, let's say. And once we have a path, then we'll... Yes, this summer. Once we have that path, we'll then spend the next year finalizing the design and have an advertised project in the fall of '25.
Okay, so it's in.
And
Do you have-
why, if 28 days could be a start to finish, would we, with enough detour routes at our accessibility here, would we go through an entire summer of production?
Well, that's the balance, right? Because the detour is inconvenienced. And I think that's what we'd have to look at is where do the trucks go? What's that route? What's that cost the traveling public as large, right? And we haven't gotten there yet, but that's, if you look at sort of our traditional accelerated bridge program, 28 days is probably reasonable. Now that doesn't mean there won't be any impacts before or after, but that'll be, the principal design window, and then there'll be a little bit of impacts before and after. Let's just say it'll be 60 days total impacts, but traffic won't be, doing a chicane all summer.
Fine. Marie?
Can I just say, stop the real overwork? But if you have a project, if you have land that might work for a restoration project, or you're having issues with flooding on your own property, reach out to me. I am right here in town, and that's what I do, is I go out, and then with the projects that are appropriate, I'll refer to Scott.
Great, thank you. Becca, do you have any final comments or questions or anything like that?
Yeah, I just had one question for Mr. Reed, and then I do want to thank everyone for reaching out. As this continues, and you feel like if there are things you're not feeling heard, one of our jobs as elected officials is to try to communicate and make sure the ball is not being dropped. So if you at any point feel like the conversation is not moving, please know that my door and your other senators and your local reps' doors are open. There's a lot of projects locally that are kind of in a weird spot because we were very impacted by flooding here. So my only question is, you said it's being advertised in 2025, but it wasn't in the budget for FY 2025 that I saw. I didn't see it, there was no project listed for Reading Bridge repair.
In the front of the book?
Is it in, so it is funded? Okay, so we can find that, we can find out how much money has been allocated. I don't remember seeing it, so I'll have to take.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if we've only allocated design because we
Okay.
didn't have anything, so it might be in the front of the book. But we identified those 65 projects. The timing was a little awkward with publishing the capital program, but
Okay. Well, I'll
it
take
is,
a
yeah, it is funded, it is programmed. Federal highway does have time constraints, so I'm not gonna guarantee, but I can say with a high level of confidence, this won't be pushed because of those constraints.
Well, we'll check it, we'll check.
Yep.
Cool, thank you.
All right, well, Jeremy, thank you very much
My
for making
pleasure.
the trip down here. About an hour of grilling, you handled it really well. So we all are looking at our watches and it's summer will end in about 3 months, so we'll see you soon. All right. What's that? Yeah, we are going to actually continue with the rest of our scheduled events. So, but if you were here mainly for that and wanted to leave, please feel free to do so. We'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is highways. Bob, would you like to address the highways?
I was
Or
just
is
looking
Glenn
to
on?
see if Glenn was on, and I don't think he is. Can you see Esther? Is
He's
Glenn
not.
on?
He is not on there, no.
Okay.
I can't hear, I can't see.
He's not on there.
All right, I'll give you a quick update on highways. Obviously, the boys are now able to scrape a lot of roads. We're trying to get them shaped up so that we can begin to do some of the grant work that we've been given. We have 3 grants that have been, 2 of them have been pushed, but they are due to be complete by September 30th. And all of these grants are for ditch work or culvert work along the Class 3, and one is on the Class 2, 20 mile stream, Class 3 highways to contain water on those highways so that we don't have as many washouts either. We do have to get one done by the end of June, so the boys will be jumping on that shortly when they get the road shaped up. I do not have an update on the new truck, but next item, we do have to make a motion to take out a loan to buy it. So I'll leave that for that. Other than that, highways are still here, even with the heavy rains. We're moving along. We got a few culverts to put in. We got almost as many to clean.
It's good to know the highways are still here.
They're here.
Okay, good. Paul.
Thank you, Paul Seaver. Along my property line, I asked last year before we got all the rain to have the ditch line dug out and the berm, which is about yay high, cleaned off. There's a couple culverts, one was on Dwayne's property or before the right of way that goes up to whatever, up on the hill. Both of those culverts, I can't even see. There's also a culvert beside the road that I can see the inlet, but I cannot see the outlet that goes into that ditch by the telephone pole between Gary's right of way and, before my driveway. And also up through towards the cemetery, there's a couple all the way up through there that need to be cleaned out.
We're gonna work on those, Paul.
Okay, that's all I'm asking, because last year I asked and, with the flooding and everything, I said, no, I'll wait until now, but that's all I got. Is when you got a berm that high, there's also, I do have a curtain drain that goes out in the ditch by the telephone pole that's opposite my house, which, all I can say is please be careful when it gets dug out down through there, because when Mr. Bob was here, he kind of did the line in, but the town okayed it for, a curtain drain.
I'm sure we'll find it.
Yeah, finding it and hitting it, he said.
If you know where it is, put a stake there.
That I can do.
Okay.
Right now, you can see the water coming out of it.
Oh, all right, okay, so it can be seen.
Because it's going into it, but it's about that deep. So, well, when Donald was here, I was gonna put it in, he said, no, we'll take care of it, because there was a lot of water at the time, not from me, but just coming down that side of the road. You know, I wanted to put a culvert in it, you know, try to alleviate some going down the road. But yeah, it's like berm like this, it needs to be dug out, and there's some rocks there. So, thank you.
You're welcome, Paul. Okay, the next item is the truck loan discussion.
We have $50,000 in our budget that we're working with through June 30th. The truck is between $216,000 and $220,000, our share after trade-in. So we will need to get a loan in the vicinity of $170,000, and because we'll take the 50 off. And Callista has been working on that. Her not being here, I can't tell you the exact payback amount each year, but we did budget for it at 40-some thousand a year over 4 years to pay back the 170,000.
Okay,
So I'll make a motion that we authorize Callista to take a loan for 170,000 through Mascoma Bank.
when do we need that by, or when, what's the timing
Well,
here?
when we get the truck. But it's supposed to be here, was supposed to be here last week, didn't make it. Hopefully it's gonna be here this week. If it makes it, Scott Reed is very, very accommodating, so he'll wait till Callista gets back and can get the money.
Okay, great.
Can you please clarify for everyone, Bob, what the truck is,
What type of truck?
what its job is for the town?
What we did is we have a 2014 international truck, got well over 100,000 miles on it, and all sorts of motor problems for the past, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. We've put a lot of money into it, and in 2022, we decided that it was time to trade that truck in and get a new one. What is coming is a new international, it's a 10-wheel truck with a much larger body than what we have now. Will help us immensely when we're drawing gravel or moving gravel from any gravel pit to the town barn. It is going to be bigger, although it's not going to be any higher or any wider than the truck we've got now. It's up at Viking in the Montpelier, Berlin area, having the body put on, and it was in the paint shop. 2 weeks ago, it came out, and the guy told Glenn, he said, I don't like the looks of the paint on the front plow frame, so I'm gonna sand it off and repaint it. So that's where it stands at this point in time. It'll
It's a
be
plow
used
truck
as an
too?
all-around truck, snow plow, hauling gravel, fixing roads, mud season, whatever.
And it's the only 10-wheeler we have in the town currently,
Yes,
correct?
it's the first 10-wheeler and the only 10-wheeler.
Thank you.
And the old one, you said the 2014, we're trading in?
Trading it in.
Yep, okay.
Unless somebody wants to buy it. Gary, you need a truck.
But I know where it would work good.
You got 5, but
We're good
you,
on walking the waivers.
you got 5 up there now. You got room for 1 more. I measured it.
I beg to differ.
No, it's gonna be traded in because we have actually parked it. The check engine light came on again. And so rather than even worry about what's wrong with it, we parked it. So we're just working with one. We only got 2 people right now anyway. So we're only working with 1 truck,
Okay.
grader and loader and stuff like that.
Great.
Need a second on your motion.
I'll second. Am I allowed to second? Let's say I'm allowed to second. Okay.
Yes.
All in favor?
Hi.
Aye?
Aye.
Okay. All right, so Callisto will work the details of the loan for that truck.
I'm sure she's probably got them pretty well worked, but I don't have access to them, so.
Okay. Next item, FEMA and bridge repair update.
The FEMA part is basically, it's just paperwork at this point in time. We're continuing to put in our claims for the highways that we have fixed. They get delayed because it seems like FEMA has something new that we need to do on each one. And it's not earth-shattering, it's just time-consuming. So we have gotten some money already, not a lot, but we did get some. We've got 4 or 5 projects up there right now, waiting for them to send them back for us to review and sign off on. So we should be getting some more money back shortly. But we've got 6 or 8 projects to go, and the 2 big ones.
6 or 8 projects to go before we've submitted everything?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Then the 2 big ones, I think Gordy has gone. He was sort of spearheading the Archer Bridge repair and the Grasshopper Culvert. He and I have been communicating weekly on the write-up for the request, and that's ready to go in.
Nice. Okay, great. Okay, thank you, Bob. And then an update on the Emergency Watershed Protection Program. So we have met with a couple of different engineers to work the design efforts for, we said there are 4 sites that are approved for work under the EWP program that as a result of the July flooding last year. We've settled on one engineering firm to do the work. That engineering firm is now in contact with the federal representatives of the EWP program to make sure that the engineer understands what the requirements are of this EWP program. The next step is for the engineering firm to do the design work. Once we have the design work done, we can put that work out for bid and start the efforts. So it's continuing. Everything always seems to take longer than you hope it does, but we're making progress. There was a second EWP program that we considered as a result of some of the heavy rains that we got last month. So we had the EWP program manager out looking at a couple of different sites. I don't have a lot of confidence that will go anyplace, but there's a site behind Sue Allen's house, and then there's another site that's by Karen and Jim Barr's place that potentially affects 106. Any place that affects something like a state highway that receives federal funding can't be funded through the EWP program, so that's a non-starter. We may have to look at other options for that. And we're waiting to hear about the results for some of the area behind Sue Allen's area. Kevin?
Did you say that when the state highway is in danger of being compromised, EWP will not cover it?
That's correct. That's what the EWP program manager told us, is that they're not allowed to provide funding to an organization or to fix something that is receiving federal funds, and that 106 receives federal funds. So it has to be a different organization that would assist with work that's endangering 106.
And through AOT, I think, not through us.
Yes, and not through the town, right, but through the Agency of Transportation.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Is that news to you, Kevin?
Maybe I forgot.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, next item on any other questions, EWP? Okay, next item on the agenda is the local emergency management plan, which we're supposed to update annually. Bob, you've lived, eaten, and breathed this for a while, huh?
Yes.
Dreaming about it at night?
I didn't bring it with me, Bob, because we were going to electronically sign, so I'll do that.
Okay.
You have both looked at it and said it's after 3 one last times from me have said that I've covered everything that you found, and thank you very much for that, because I had looked at it so much I didn't even get my own email address right. So I do want to make a motion that we adopt the local emergency management plan as I have presented to you. And then I can send it to Mark, Mount Escutney Regional Commission. They will look it over and send it on to the state. In fact, one of the people at Mark is going to upload it into the state EWP, or not EWP, LEMP program, so that they can just say, okay, it's there, waiting for your approval.
I'll second that. Is everybody clear with that, what the LEMP is? Okay.
I'm looking to see if anybody's going, "Rrr." Okay. We implemented it during the last flood. It says where the Emergency Operations Center is, which is here, appoints an Emergency Management Director, which is Gary Vittum. Where do we hold shelters? Here and at the fire station, and points of contact, both within town, within the state, resources in the area in case something major happens. Yes, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good. Thank you, Bob, for doing that.
Sorry I didn't bring it. I apologize.
No worries at all. All right, next item on the agenda. The future is Reading. So, Madeline, you or Paris, who's going to give the update?
So just quick update on what we've been doing. We've got a fifth community meeting this past Saturday. Thank you to everybody who's participated so far, and to those of you who haven't had a chance to join us, please do. We usually meet on the second Saturday of the month, but in June, instead of a meeting, we're going to have a pancake breakfast here at Town Hall, right in this room. So it'll be free to folks. We just ask that folks bring, if you want and if you can, an item to donate to the food shelf, something non-perishable. But we'll have Jane and Lisa are heading that up, and we'll have pancakes and fruit, and I don't want to promise too much. So.
Don't. I'm just recovering from this one.
And it will be we'll put flyers out in the sandwich board and stuff, but it'll be Saturday from 9 to 11 on June 8th. We are always looking for volunteers. We have a few projects going on. Jack and I will talk about one in a little bit, which is a community gathering space project. The other one is asset mapping that Sarah is heading up. I don't know who you want to say anything about that.
Just very quickly, we had an experiment around that today in this room. And folks who are here hosted a luncheon for seniors and the 3rd and 4th graders from the Reading Elementary School. And we asked people to start to contribute about what's great in and about Reading, what used to be great in and about Reading, and what would make a great Reading in the future. And we got the first 14 sticky notes and comments ranging from these 3rd and 4th graders up through others old like me in the community. So more to come about that, but the approach worked. I was making some maps out of all of this by the time we get done.
Right, so you can come to the pancake breakfast and we'll have maps up and we'll continue that activity. And the last project that we're working on at the moment is a fall festival that Lisa, Kaya, and I are heading up, and we have a team of people who are willing to pitch in. If you're interested, you can get in touch with one of us. We're looking at October 5th. That's a Saturday. It's like 95% certain that's the date. I'll give myself a little wiggle room. Other than that, we have a space next to the door, the front door on the left, if you're headed out to 106, where we post minutes, and we'll just put up any kind of critical information like the next meeting date, things like that. And that's it. I don't know if folks have questions, but I'm happy to answer anything.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Madeline.
Thank you, Madeline.
And thanks, Paris, for facilitating that last time. Just props to you guys for, it's nice to see so many people that are kind of committed and interested in making a difference. So appreciate what you guys are doing. Along those same lines, we have the next item on the schedule is the Village Trust Initiative. So Jack, I'm going to turn this over to you, talking about a letter of support that you'd like from the select board. So go ahead.
So Madeline will be passing out some information about this. So about a year ago, Jane and I attended a conference on rural development. It was in Stratford, and it was hosted by the Preservation Trust of Vermont. And that's where we came in contact with that organization and their activities. And there were some presenters from different towns and talk about projects that were going on in their villages. And through that, we became aware of the model that the Preservation Trust created to create community trusts within the village. A community trust is a nonprofit organization with a 501c3 tax status that can then facilitate some projects that are that the community chooses to work on. We've looked at it. It seems to be a very successful model that many villages throughout the state are using. Madeline will talk about funding because that model, that community trust, has a lot to do with how we attain funds for any project that we decide on. So coincidentally, within the last month, the Preservation Trust created a new umbrella organization called the Village Trust Initiative. And it's specific for villages that are under a population of under 2,500 people. And there would be a bundle of money between $100,000 and $450,000 that would become available for this community trust to initiate and get projects off the ground. This is a competitive process. There's an application that we would have to apply through, and so we'd be competing with other villages looking for the same money. I can say from the experience we've had interacting with the Preservation Trust, they're impressed with us as an organization. The committee that we've created is skilled. We're offering, the committee has lawyers, finance people, engineering and building experience. Excuse me? I'm getting there. And grant writers, which will be very, very important. So what they're asking of us is what the need is for this project. And to answer that, it's very important through the Futures Reading organization. We're hoping to define that need through a lot of input, from the community, because there are a lot of ideas out there, general stores, art centers, coffee shops, everything is open to us And we have to decide as a community to decide what this real need is. They want to know what steps we've taken. One of the most important steps that we've taken so far is that we've been in contact with an architect engineer through the Preservation Trust that came down and looked at Wetrovas. And again, I'd like to say that we're not fixated on Wetrovas. It's just an example. But he came down and within a month, he's going to offer us a condition assessment. The condition assessment will give us an idea of how much cost would be involved, what would be needed to create whatever image we want to build upon. I think that's very important too, because if we're looking at other options within the village, we can use the model of this condition assessment to judge other buildings and make a decision one way or the other. So why are we here talking to you? Part of this application, a requisite is that they're looking for support from the village government. So they're looking for a letter of support. And that's what we are asking the select board now to consider and to give us this letter in support of what our initiative has started. Leading up to the meeting, we've given you guys a sample.
Yep.
A sample, and we're hoping that you might consider making a decision today. The reason why we're asking today is that on the 24th of May, we have to submit an intake form to apply. The letter of support would be very useful to go along with it. It's not critical at this point. If you guys need to deliberate, it can be a follow-up. But that's what we're really hoping that the select board will consider and lend us our support. I'd like to pass it on to Madeline for a moment where she can talk about funding, because it has a lot to do with how decisions would be made.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna say a couple of other things that, a little more context of how this all came about. And so we started meeting together as this Future of Reading group in January. And at the very first meeting, we asked about 30 people who showed up in the snow and the rain and said, what do you want to see in Reading? What's your idea for Reading? What are your hopes and dreams for Reading? And one of the things that came up was a place for people to get together. So Wetrovas moved out last year, Keepers closed a couple of years before that as the Hammondsville Tavern. The Greenhouse has done an amazing job in carving out spaces for people to get together. But currently there's no kind of permanent space where people can get lunch, they can sit down with a friend, they can just chat, whatever. Or have a multi-purpose use of a place that people can gather spontaneously. So we ran with that a little bit, honestly. And with Wetrovas on the market and Keepers on the market too, we've looked at both buildings. What we handed out was trying to just kind of help people understand the work that's been done so far. Jack has really led a big effort to try to really understand other models in other communities, what has worked, and intersected us with the Vermont, the Preservation Trust of Vermont. which has worked with a lot of communities, so I'm not gonna repeat what he said. But what we have in front of us is an opportunity for a substantial amount of money, as Jack said, up to $500,000, $450,000. And even maybe more importantly than money is technical assistance. So they'll help us with community engagement process to really drill down. What does the community need? Is it a general store? Is it an art center? Is it a something else, rec center, combined something or other, right? And what will succeed? So market assessments, business models, what funding's out there from other grant sources that we could pull together. How do we do a capital campaign and raise private money that will be essential to whatever gets done? So for those who don't know me, I have a background in city planning, community development. I've done a lot of grant writing, worked with a lot of agencies, not Vermont per se, I'm from Massachusetts. But when you start to build a network of agencies that are dialed into what's happening in your community, one project can lead to others. And I think that's one aspect of this opportunity that's attractive, is that it's not necessarily the end of the road where we'll get 500 grand that might go toward a $2 million project. It might be that it leads to other things and other acts tapping into other funds for the town. Jack talked about some of the details. I don't know how much you care about the details, if you want to know evaluation criteria, that sort of thing. I think the short of it is that we've met with Nicole Bratton, who's from the Preservation Trust of Vermont. She's very excited to see our application go in. When she was here a few weeks ago at Wetruba, she told me they had at least 12 interested towns. They expect to award 6 applications at the end of the summer. And they don't know when the next round will be. This is a pilot program. So they're kind of feeling their way through it. So it's not like we could say, okay, let's sit out this round, we'll do next round.
Yeah.
We as a committee have talked. Do we want to get involved with public money? Because there's a lot of strings attached, and how do we manage that? Do we want to just stay private? And we don't know. But this is an opportunity that feels like we should just get our foot in the door, and part of the application process is a conversation with the Preservation Trust of Vermont. But we have to do the intake form. We'll then have a conversation with them. They'll get to know us. We'll get to know them. And then, if we're selected in August, we have the opportunity to accept or deny. I would not encourage, we definitely don't want to go into this thinking like, we don't want it, but let's just try to get it. We have to be well-intentioned that we're
Right.
seriously considering this. We don't want to burn any bridges with
That makes
state
sense.
agencies. Key components of the grant, if I can is that there's a building, ideally historic, in a village center that can meet the needs of the community. And we feel pretty confident between a couple of buildings that we're looking at as potential sites that we have that.
Nice. Okay. Esther, you got a question?
If this building is not available, what other building would you be looking at?
One of the other buildings that we have an eye on is what we're calling the Grange Building. It was the old cheese shop next to Libet Downs House. That's a possibility. We had the good fortune of making contact with the owner after many attempts. So the door has a crack open, and that's something to consider. The old hardware store is a consideration that we look at. We understand that the owner might be difficult to deal.
Not a bit.
We don't know. We don't know. And at this point, I think we should also mention that we're very well aware of the one only successful retail operation in the town, the greenhouse, is that we've talked to them, we're sensitive to all the work that they've done and how we could coordinate and not step on one another's toes.
So if you're gonna put together a capital campaign, I don't know if you've researched any people yet or not, but how would those people be repaid?
Repaid?
Yeah.
For their property?
For the capital that they
Their
put up
investment?
towards this project?
Oh, we haven't gotten that far, Esther, to be honest. I mean, I think that's
So the-
part of what the Preservation Trust can help us with is figuring out, how does this all work? How do we offer capital? Do we expect people to have a return on their investment? Is it a donation for private money? We don't know. And I think that's partially what makes this an attractive opportunity, is that there'll be somebody there holding our hand and trying to ensure that we're successful in the long run.
And if we go with the trust model, we look at both private and public funding. There might be a capital campaign with private donations, there would be grants, we look at any options that we could get.
And there'd be no expectation that town funding would be required.
That's
Very important, we are not asking the town to spend a single penny. All right, we are not expecting the town to have to bear any burden at all.
And
Well, so
establishing your 501c3 will require a legal.
Absolutely, it would have to become a legal entity. Yeah.
And is that gonna be donated?
Those costs are the costs that they can help us with if we were to receive this grant. That's
Can
my
I-
understanding. You do have some other questions for them?
Jack or Madeline, does the trust have to be established before? It doesn't have to be established before you put the application in, right? But
No, as long as they're as long as the village trust recognizes a committed group of people,
okay.
Which we've already demonstrated, that's enough at this point.
I would assume, we talked about impacts to the town, if you're forming a trust that's going to be a 501c3 nonprofit, I assume that trust will buy and own whatever property we're talking about.
One of the advantages to using the trust model is that we would take ownership, the trust would take ownership of a property.
Right.
And let's say hypothetically, it's a general store. And again, this is all hypothetical. Let's say it's a general store and the trust finds an operator to run it, and give them some incentives, financial incentives that help get them off the ground. And let's say they fail and they leave. Well, the trust still has the property and maintains that equity that we did.
Where I was going with this is that if a nonprofit owns, let's say, just for example, Watrobe is here, that comes off, you're not going to be paying property taxes as a nonprofit organization,
A
right?
nonprofit organization has the opportunity to negotiate with its host community for what is called a pilot, payment in lieu of taxes.
Okay.
Thank you.
And so arrangements can be made between nonprofit organizations and municipalities around this
Great.
at any point.
Thank you. That's what I was concerned
Right,
about.
and just to add to what Sarah mentioned, is that there would be a stimulus to retail sales and activities in the town. And and hopefully a path for other development. So, it might be beneficial in many ways.
Okay, great, thank you. Bill?
Just a quick point of information, the founder of Mount Preservation Trust, a guy named Paul Broom, founded it over 3 years ago, and he was Patrick Leahy's first campaign manager, first chief of staff for 8 years, and then he founded the trust. It's a very well-known, well-established, credible organization. It's pretty well-known throughout the state of Vermont. It's not the only community development model, but it's one that's got very much traction.
Great. Okay, so what you have asked of the select board here, and I just want to be clear that whatever organization, committee, trust that you're standing up is separate from the town government. You're not reporting to the select board in any way, right? This is a separate independent entity, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you're just simply asking for a letter of support, saying the town is in favor of pursuing this, not necessarily the specific steps of what building you're gonna purchase, what you're gonna do with it, but we are in favor of you walking this path and letting us know what's going on. Yep. What do you guys think?
I think it's a great idea. There's so much potential there. The letter is excellent. It speaks to all of the work that's been done, everything that the town can be at some point. So I'm in favor.
Bob?
Me too. Me too. I think that the draft that you put together or Jack gave you, however it came about, is well written. And the only thing I would say is once we sign it, we ought to copy it over onto the town letterhead. So it has a town professional look. We can do that, right?
Yes, you can.
Yes, you can.
I don't want to be pushy, but I am from New York.
Oh, forget it, if you're from New York. Yeah.
Can this be done by tomorrow?
So we will, I mean, I'm in favor as well. I think we can sign this right after the meeting tonight, and if we can figure out how to work a copying machine and put it through onto town letterhead.
The only thing I'm concerned about is the
location of.
Yeah, the date and the bottom signature, but we can run a copy and see what you gotta do quickly to shrink it.
We can email it to you if that's easier.
I just think it would look better if it comes on a regular.
Oh, no, I really expect that, yeah, thank you.
Madeline, can you email it to the office?
I think I have the most recent one that I've sent
Well,
already.
if it's on the office, then I can just run it through the.
Okay. I will send. Yes, we can. Okay, do we need a motion in order to sign this, or we're just good signing?
We've done this before.
Okay.
For other groups and people, so I'll make a motion that we sign the letter of support to the
Village Trust Initiative, is that what we're
Yeah.
doing?
Village Trust Initiative.
Village Trust Initiative.
Okay, and I'm happy to vote in favor when we vote. All in favor?
Yep.
Aye. Good. Thank you, everyone. Expect. Should be interesting things coming from that. Really looking forward to it. All right, we're getting close, folks. Only 3 more pages to go of items.
Yeah. I see there was
Just
some on the
kidding.
back.
I think my wife just died over there. Solar array project, only 2 more items. Do we still have, oh, Bill, yeah.
Brian Calley's the project manager on this, and he couldn't be here tonight, so he asked other members. Kevin's on the committee, Paul Dary's on the committee, and myself. I just wanted to give an update to you. Most of which you probably already know. I think there's a bunch of thank yous we want to hand out tonight. First of all, for getting the contract reviewed, signed, and the deposit check over to Catalan Solar. Thank you, Bob. I know you and Brian worked pretty hard on that, and that's greatly appreciated. So that sort of officially kicks off, and I know you guys also didn't get a deposit check together. We appreciate that as well. That's really getting things going. But I actually have photographic evidence on my phone of the fire chief driving a skidder. He not only drives fire trucks, he drives skidders. And he has single-handedly cut down all the trees where the array is going to go with little help from Cloud. So big shout out to,
Was he wearing a helmet?
yeah, to the chief and to the cloud for getting those trees down. Like Saturday morning, I drove by, they're up. Saturday afternoon, I drove by, they're down. So now they gotta chip them and clear them, and that's gonna take a while.
Clean up, yeah.
Yeah, but that's a huge step forward. While we thought it was tough getting the town to approve the whole project, getting the trees down was no small amount of effort on the chief's part. Thank you very much. Greatly appreciate it. The steps forward. Let's see, I'm gonna make sure I get this right here. Well, I think one of the next, well, let me put the timing in context. The next actual physical step will be the ground mount screws go in the ground. That's what they then mount the solar array panels on. They subcontract, the Catamount Solar subcontracts the ground mount to another company, and they got a pretty lengthy lead time of anywhere between 30 to 60 days. We know ideally we want this to fall in the next fiscal year, if I'm correct, Robert, is that correct? So we want it to really happen after July 1, if humanly possible. And we got, I assume that means if the select board decides to also finance it with a municipal loan, we're probably gonna get that application going as well. So the next big hurdles or big stepping stones or markers on the project would be financing and then scheduling. Because the payment schedule we negotiated will require a next payment once they get the ground mount screws in. That's the second payment is due then, so we probably ought to get rolling on the municipal application if that's where you decide to go. I assume that's from, advice that was given earlier on.
So Bill, you're saying 30 to 60 days from now is when those ground mount screws are gonna go in?
I heard they could do it as early as mid-June, but that's not confirmed.
Yep.
But if you want it to happen in July, just tell us when you want, or not to get it done before a certain date, anytime after. If you want it after July 1, that's what we'll tell them. But they're ready to go.
Here's the deal, Bill. When you do the construction is, I don't think, a concern of ours. It's basically when the money becomes available. So if the invoice is dated July 4th, 5th, you're good.
And I assume it's probably, from my experience in the municipal loan department, Masco, it's usually a couple of weeks for them to process and approve a municipal loan. And I know you have an established relationship with them, so it shouldn't be too time.
Just one question. Gary, are you planning on taking the stumps out? Really?
We don't
They
need
told me they
them.
didn't need them out.
We don't.
Not where the solar's gonna go, they said they didn't need them out.
No, we don't.
They'll rot.
Sooner or later.
It's better than a tree then.
Well, what made us really nervous, I don't know if you noticed, about a month ago, one tree did come down into the garden. If the array had been there, it would have done some major damage. So this means there's just no risk to the array from fallen trees, and we're really grateful for that. And once the panels go up, there's some trenching that has to happen between the arrays and the meter at the firehouse. Green Mountain Power's got to put a new transformer on a pole out on the street, and then they got to hook it all up and fire it up. But we think once the arrays are, the panels only take a couple of days to mount. It's really a quick process. Trenching and the transformer, that stuff. Catamount handles everything. We don't really have to do anything other than keep in touch with these milestones as they go.
Okay.
Any questions?
No, so I think we're clear that whenever they do the work, the invoice for the work should not be dated before 1 July.
No problem whatsoever.
Okay.
And do you need a motion to approve municipal loan, or how does that work?
We'll take care of that when you get ready to, we'll take care of that when Melissa's back. We got another meeting coming up in a week and a half.
We got time.
Oh, a week and a half, really?
Well, maybe 2. It ain't very far away.
Okay, anything else, Bill?
No, just to thank everybody. It's been a real community effort. There's been a lot of people behind the scenes working on this for a long time, about a year and a half now. That's finally gonna happen. It's really great.
Okay, thanks. All right, last formal item that we had on the agenda was the pump track and Bartley Field restoration project update.
Yes.
John.
So, via the last correspondence or email from Avery Morris, they're starting, they've already cleared a bunch of brush, but they're starting to really dig in on the 27th of this month, and I believe Robert, he's got a whole view about any material. Okay. And, but that's pretty much where they're at this point. They haven't really dove in, other than the fact that I know he's he's cleared a bunch of brush and debris that was up in that back corner on that hillside there. And also as far as the ball field rehab, I did go back through the itemized list we had for the improvements and got new prices, being as we're a year out from there. And we still should be within budget or very close to it. So if we have to, we can figure something out.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
There was some issue, I think, when we were talking about this last year about not having a project manager to be able to oversee it, and is Avery able to do that?
Yes, he's
Okay.
kind of taking the lead on that and his company's Sinuosity. So they're emceeing that whole part of
Okay,
it. And then
great.
when they're complete and off there, we'll dig into the ball field itself. Although some preliminary stuff we may start here.
Nice.
Right off.
Okay, good, thanks, John.
Yeah.
Okay, we're into the other section. Any other items? Yes, ma'am. Carol.
I have an all-important question.
Uh-oh.
When's the ice cream truck coming back?
The ice cream truck is not coming back to us this year.
No.
They are way too busy. The children have got new lives because they're adults now and they're just not available. So they're doing very selective, like they'll go to Sky Mountain for the fireworks and things like that, but on a weekly basis, Mary, believe me, we've been asking.
But they will come on October 5th.
Yeah, I mean, events
Have
like
them
that.
scheduled for that.
Okay.
So
Let's see.
you hold your ice cream until then.
Mary, why don't you open a truck?
And I have another announcement.
You're retired, Bill, go for it.
It's the middle of the fourth and the Rays are beating the Red Sox 3-0.
Love it.
Big surprise, okay. Anybody else other? I have a couple of announcements. So Bob mentioned that the next select board meeting, a couple of things that we're going to be talking about. You're aware of the the Felchville wastewater study that's being done by Du Bois and King. They're ready to present their 60% report, which is where they come in and talk about options for where would you locate a wastewater treatment facility if we were going to do something for the village here. So they're planning to present that at the next meeting, just a heads up.
When's that meeting?
10th.
The 10th of June. And also during that meeting, Mark, the Montescutney Regional Commission is going to be in talking about the town plan. They want to do a review of the town plan with the select board. So we're going to take a portion of that meeting to do that review. We'll talk about whether it's before or after and if people want to stay for it. Just wanted you to be aware that that's coming. Okay. Last item for my esteemed colleagues up here. I got a letter from Brownsville, the Independence Day Planning Commission, asking if we would be so kind as to consider making a donation to the Brownsville Independence Day Committee because of all the extra costs that they're incurring for fireworks since they support the surrounding towns. So I just wanted to open that up for a quick discussion and see what folks thought. Bob, would you like to?
Sure, throw me
Please.
right under the bus.
I'm giving you an opportunity to set the stage, which
I know Brownsville does a lot of work over there. They have a tremendous network of volunteers and they do a lot of things, some of which Reading residents can take part in. But I'm against making a donation to their events when we've got events coming up right here in town. And when we had the Fall Fest or the Old Home Days, the town didn't put any money into that whatsoever. It was done by raising funds on their own, fire department mainly, and donations. So I don't think we should donate to another town. My bigger concern is once we do that, it opens the door for anybody and everybody to send you a very similar letter.
Yeah.
That's my 10 cents worth.
How do you feel, Lise?
I agree completely,
Yeah.
actually. I think that with all the work that people are doing here to bring back some of the events that Reading has had historically, we would rather use funds, if any are available, to donate to things that are going on in our own town.
And I agree. I agree with both of you. So we have a lot coming up. It sounds like we have a lot of interest in doing a number of activities. We're not going to be asking other towns to contribute to us. And yeah, when does it stop if we do start this? So I'll respond back to Brownsville's and let them know how we feel about this. Okay. Any final comments? Anything else, Lisa? Bob? No?
Thank you, everyone who came today to the luncheon.
Thank you.
Yeah, I understand the luncheon was great today. Entertain a motion to adjourn now.
Oh, yes.
Second, all right. We are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.